Hold on. Let me pick up my mic. Welcome back to another video. You feel me? Like, comment, subscribe. You feel me? If you messing with the channel, and let's get into the video, bro. Real quick and easy.
Previously on this Venture Cam.
See, look, I'm just selling. I'm gonna edit that out. Dude, that's insane.
Dear Mom and Dad, I'm doing fine. Despite the shark diving, lava traversing...
And as we go through this, I'm gonna tell y'all which ones I would do and which ones I would not do. Like, you feel me? Like, you know how in the first challenge, like, you ain't get the, some got the points and some will get the points. I'm gonna say that. So how well I do.
Testicle eating challenges, this absolute psychopath has us doing on a daily basis. Today we're ranking total drama challenges from gruesome to most gruesome. We'll start with some of the challenges that wouldn't likely kill you, which by total drama standards is a pretty sweet deal.
Let's go.
They'll definitely lead to some free hospital trips. Good thing this show takes place in Canada. The Disaster Film Challenge. We'll start with the action episode Masters of Disasters, in which...
I'm not gonna lie. Is it just me? Or I gotta speed up the video a little bit.
Chris puts the campers through their next movie genre themed challenge.
Never mind, that's too fast. Slow pace.
Disaster films. First, there's the Earthquake Challenge, where Chris and Chef force the contestants to traverse a quaking obstacle course while being pelted with various objects. This leads to poor Owen ultimately getting his jaw wired shut due to taking a textbook to the face.
That'll hurt come morning.
I'm completely bodying that challenge. What? That's what I'm made for. These headphones, man.
Somehow, that's still not the most brutal part. The latter half of the challenge remains as one of the few moments in the show so wild that even Chris felt some reservations. When the campers are tasked with escaping a flooding submarine.
I'm dying. I'm not gonna lie, I can't swim. I cannot swim. I'm gonna be the first one to drown. I'm not even gonna float to the top. I'm gonna be the first one dead. Yeah, like... That's not fair, bro. The
water gets too high for the campers to reasonably escape. But when Chris tries to get them out, it leads to Chef accidentally snapping the lever in half. And were it not for Harold's mad skills, Chris would have lost his career, and also been responsible for the death of multiple teenagers. But that's not important. Just know that the campers almost drowned in this episode, and it's only the first of many we're discussing today. Rematch time. From all of All-Star's faults, from the absolute butchering of Courtney to the assassination of everything related to Duncan's character, to the short episode counts, to literally everything involving Mal, to, where was I going with this? Oh, right. In the episode Suckers Punched, we see the campers go at it with their worst enemies. This includes things as tame as a spar between Gwen and Courtney, or Al and his older brother, to something as severe as Scott being forced to go at it with the very same shark who put him on life support at the end of the last season.
What's my biggest fear? I don't even know. I'm bodying it though. I'm like, come on, bro.
Getting back to him later,
I am
but for now, selfie with the Predator. For this one, we have to go to the first half of the reboot. In the episode Tortoise Rigamortis, the campers have to take selfies with the most dangerous animals they can find. Now, after about 6 seasons of absolute insanity, that probably sounds relatively...
No, nah. It didn't lose me. Hold on. I'm taking a photo with a clean ass mosquito, bro, and I'm finna win. What? I'm finna win. A mosquito, bro? That's dangerous. Come on, bro.
But as one of many challenges that involves these teenagers coming face to face with lethal wild animals like grizzly bears,
lions and grizzlies.
Still, at least if they...
Nah. I'm gonna take a photo with that mosquito. And I'm auto allowed to win, bro. That's the most dangerous animal.
They were crafty enough, they could hypothetically avoid detection. Insert deadly animal here, hunter. Avoiding detection can't be said for this challenge from season 1. The only thing more dangerous than taking a selfie with a bear, ignoring the, however many other challenges we're talking about after this one, is having to capture a grizzly bear. In the episode of Wawanaka Gone Wild, that's exactly what poor Heather is tasked with doing.
Are you kidding me?
It's the only animal left.
And that's a challenge that requires the campers to bring a specific wild animal back to the campsite unharmed. Heather is forced to go toe-to-toe with a wild bear, while the other campers are assigned to tiny animals like chipmunks, frogs, and so forth. As absolutely horrible season 1 Heather was, forcing her to 100%. Go face-to-face with a bear is still a couple steps too far. Run for your life, literally. I think there's a case to be made for basically every World Tour challenge being mentioned on this list, but some of them stand out more than others. So this is an umbrella entry for many of the race-themed challenges, and actually, that sounds wrong. Let me clarify. We're talking about foot races. For example, the race through the Yukon, in which the campers are forced to traverse freezing water and risk hypothermia. And then there's the run through the Amazon, which is filled with poisonous animals and all sorts of other dangerous things. And even if some of those people are actors, that's only going to make you let your guard down for the next group of cannibals that comes after you. Angry campers.
I think I'll survive.
Angry birds? Well, how do you think the birds feel? Do you think they like being slingshotted like that for your amusement? In this episode of the reboot, a challenge is simply to slingshot your teammates as far as possible.
Less talky, more tossy!
On the plus side, they at least get helmets, which is super...
We're dying. We are dying. We can't do this. To slingshot your teammates? Yeah, we dying. There's no point. We're dying.
Generous by Chris's standards.
We're dying.
It's more than we can say for a lot of the challenges these campers are forced into. Total Mutant Island. If we mentioned natural animals, we can't possibly leave out the entire gimmick of Season 4. The ludicrous amounts of radiation that permeated Camp Wawanaka. These turn the already hostile wildlife of the island into a zoological crime against nature. From fire-breathing winged mountain goats, to giant crabs and beavers, to squirrels with laser eyes, to the bane of Scots everywhere. The wildlife here is not something you're going to be able to observe peacefully. Still, if you're competing in this season, just be glad if you're lucky enough to avoid getting mutated yourself. Why Dakota's family didn't hit Chris with a lawsuit is beyond me. But with that said...
Because they already rich. They were already rich. They were already rich in the show. So they're not gaining nothing. They're realistically losing money. And she probably didn't want to be honest. She got so much it's like she took the Captain America serum. She got so many buffs, bro.
It's time for us to move into the less dangerous challenges, into the more absolutely lethal ones. These are the guaranteed death sentences. Broken Back Horsemen. Out of all the challenges Chris could have...
But the slingshot one wasn't? Oh, send me 6 feet and that's it. Send me further than that. You gonna break a limb. You might end up in a coma with the slingshot one.
Come up with for the Western movie challenge in action. He kept it simple by telling his campers to jump off a 100-foot tall diving board onto a horse.
No, that was OD. That's OD. That's dead.
According to a quick Google search,
for the horse
most survivable human falls are between the range of 20 to 25 feet. How every last one of these guys weren't in body casts is beyond me. But it probably has something to do with the fact that they have what folks in the animation business call plot armor. Even if these cartoon characters are just immune to injury for the episode, that doesn't mean they won't feel pain. And given that the goal is to land on a horse, that leads to no shortage of nutshot opportunities. Back to basics. On the topic of jumps the cast should not have survived, we have the very first challenge in the series.
Yep, I'm just like DJ, just like Courtney, just like Beth, I'm sitting out. You can get me to do that. Absolutely not. Absolutely
Rules are
not,
simple.
bro.
Jump off a cliff into shark-infested waters, ideally without dying.
Piece of cake.
As a kid, that might seem way less dangerous than the previous challenge because water is just less hard than ground, or horse. But when you're that high up, the distance doesn't really matter. And even if you miraculously survived such a steep dive, those sharks would have fixed the issue momentarily. Death Battle. The finale of Revenge of the Island is probably the simplest of the whole series. Gone is every pretense of flashy obstacle courses and trivia contests, both of which could be plenty dangerous, mind you. But here we have the classic nerd versus jock match, to the death. It's Lightning's brawn versus Cameron's brains, and also brawn. Given that he managed to build himself an Iron Man suit in the short amount of prep time he was granted. Ignoring the obvious factor of killer robots
Captain
having
America
the ability
versus
to
Iron
kill,
Man, bro. That's
as
what it
well as
was.
the fact that Cameron, who canonically falls under the weight of a butterfly, is taking a vicious beating from a star football player. There's also the ending, at which point Lightning gets struck by his namesake, which he somehow survives with nothing worse than a change in hair color. The challenge might have been simply to pin your opponent, but I doubt Chris would have done much to prevent a more fatal outcome. Perish like an Egyptian. At first, it might seem like the Egyptian race challenge should have been in the previous category alongside the other races in World Tour, and that's a valid take. But then there's the aspect of those funny little beetle guys who literally eat Chris's intern down to the bone in a matter of seconds. Good thing the campers were able to sing a song that made those bugs horny enough to distract them from resorting to eating more people alive. And good thing I will never have to say that sentence again. Throwback what day is it? Remember that challenge in action where the campers nearly drowned and Harold had to use his mad skills to save the day? Well, years later, the 2023 reboot came about without a Harold in sight. And this time, the drowning was very much intentional. For this challenge, contestants had to reach the other side of a deadly obstacle course to get a password that would free their teammates from a tank that's gradually filling up with water. In other words, Chris is endangering the lives of several teenagers and placing said lives in the hands of other teenagers. Why is there not a SWAT team after this man? Aged like fine wine. Yes,
crazy,
Chris McLean
bro.
and Chef canonically know the location of Area 51 and have no qualms with taking a group of teenagers to perform challenges. These include...
It's like, what's much to say, bro? What is much to say? We're dying. Like, come on, bro. Like, look at this man. He got shot by a laser.
Running through a minefield, infiltrating the facility itself, and coming face to face with aliens and technology the average citizen was never meant to see.
I can see why that mullet is top secret.
I don't even know which lens of looking at this makes Chris worse. The idea of him pitting teenagers against the US military, or the idea of him pitting them against monstrous alien technology. But luckily it doesn't matter because he's doing both. Unplanned terrorist attack, in a surprising point in Chris's favor.
And it was crazy. No, that episode was insane because Chris was just about to let... Chris was on a helicopter away from the island, watching everything, sitting back on the TV, waiting for the island to explode. You know the lawsuit you was about to get hit with if them kids ain't survive? What? There's about... How many? There's about 10 people on that island. I think I'm dragging it with 10. I think there's like 8. But still, bro. Like, come on.
Once, this challenge to stop a mine...
Like, why the island have a self-destruct mode for anyways? What were you planning on doing?
Genius from blowing up Pakatu Island wasn't planned. Rather, it was done as an effort to, keep the island from being blown up. Pakatu Island was weird in general, and both the cast and its challenges followed in tow.
Our lives aren't really in danger, right?
But something about seeing the campers forced to stop a literal act of mass murder and terrorism feels a bit much even by its standards. Oh, and by the way, even if the whole Scarlet thing wasn't part of Chris's plan, he fully intended to force the campers to stop his island from blowing up. This man is an
100%.
absolute menace. This is how we will end it. Arguably the best finale of the series was that of World Tour, where we saw Heather and
100%.
Alejandro fight valiantly for the grand prize. Cody was also there, but I digress. The final two and their chosen helpers are forced to carry a wood and pineapple effigy of their opponent to the top of a volcano to sacrifice, which leads to some lava-filled challenges that should not be in a teenager's hands. unless they're controlling an Italian plumber. Even scaling a volcano wasn't intense enough for Chris either, considering how he added some booby traps to the volcano. Like, you know, the magma wouldn't kill you already. Then again, Ezekiel literally dove into the lava after the prize money and still somehow came out alive. Oh, also, this challenge gets some bonus gruesome points for the post-credits scene. Yes, really, where it's revealed with Alejandro, the only active contestant to actually get directly hit by the lava, was burnt and mangled so severely that he was placed in a robot suit for presumably the rest of his life. That is, until the next season where he was just fine. Still, before All-Stars existed, the idea that Alejandro got literally scarred for life was actually kind of disturbing. So for all the All-Stars fans out there, there's our nice...
Like, he couldn't even move his legs at first. Completely disabled. In a robot suit. I would be so pissed.
Thing to say about it. Moats and floats of doom. Speaking of All-Stars, its final challenge took a page out.
That was insane. No, that's insane. Not only we gotta cross water. Okay, water is not that bad. We gotta cross lava. Okay. And then we gotta cross acid. Where did you get the acid from? Without melting this whole thing. How did you, what did you build this out of to be able to put the acid in there without melting through the island or something? And then what happened to the acid and the lava when the island flooded? Did it just like, I know it didn't just, it gotta cause like an explosion or something, because it all just, boom, instantly hit the water at once. I don't know.
A World Tours book. Except instead of being able to freely choose helpers, Chris decided it was better to place the eliminated contestants in balloons filled with...
Listen. My big black ass. My balloon is finna be on the ground. Real easy to hit. My balloon is not gonna be floating in the sky. I'm gonna be the one balloon on the ground. They're gonna be like, "Yep, that's Maine," and they're gonna shoot it. And I'm gonna be a helper.
Farts for because the finalists like, to pop. What the living hell is Chris's problem?
Thanks, Chris. These double deep-fried beans really do the trick.
With the exceptions of Gwen, Cameron, Heather, and Alejandro, the remaining campers get blown into the sun, meaning that...
And Duncan too. We know Duncan's in his jail, so we know he's good. So,
like Alejandro last season, they presumably died. Granted, it's been confirmed that they survived somehow, but given that this is pretty much the last time we saw any of these guys, it still leaves a sour taste in our mouths.
No, for real, how the fuck did they survive? There must have been some crazy events. The balloons must have popped on some trees or something, and then they fell to the ground on some... And they all would have got injured.
Our taste is still a bit more pleasant than the challenge itself. Here, the finalists traverse 3 moats filled with bubbling toxic waste, lava, and fang-infested water. And man, this is barely even a challenge anymore. It's a straight-up assassination attempt. But I'm sure it can't get any more overtly dangerous than this. A literal river of lava. Oh, neat. The reboot took that already blatant sense of peril and made it even darker by having the final 3 race across a river of bubbling lava with nothing between them and certain doom but some rafts.
This just got...
That is not... No, bro. Realistically, you're dead. Like, you are dead. A wooden raft in some lava. That is getting gone through so quick, and then you gotta stir with a wooden stick. No, we're done.
Okay, I'll suspend my disbelief about the whole lava would basically melt those rafts instantly thing, but come on, man. One wrong step or row or anything would lead to these guys getting mutilated beyond recognition. Plus, after that, Chris forces them to roll down a hill in a ball after drinking goat's milk. I personally think crossing a lava stream would already have me ready to throw up, but whatever. Natural disaster simulation. For our final entry in this category, we've got one last finale to talk about. Pakatu Islands. It comes down to Sky and Sean, and they're paired up with the fellow contestants most likely to stir up drama, Jasmine and Dave. Jasmine's okay, I guess, but Dave, oh boy.
Wow,
What are the odds?
There's no recipe for disaster quite as potent as getting Sky's weirdo boyfriend back on the show, revealing that the target of his delusional crush had a boyfriend the whole time, and then handing him a controller that can alter the terrain and climate of the island itself. Chris just straight up gave Dave the key to try and kill Sky in a temper tantrum. This is a serious contender for the worst thing any total drama contestant has ever
done. Look at this brother, bro. Look at my little Bill over there, like.
Done. And somehow I still find myself more mad at Chris for setting this up.
I'm not falling for it, bro.
Let's move into our final 10 challenges. This category is for the challenges that fall into Chris's favorite pastimes, aka torture. The Awake-a-thon. Sleep deprivation is not fun. Whether it's because you ate too much.
No. I don't know how they were staying up. What? You stayed up for days? Bro. No. No. I can stay up for 24 hours and then go through a full day. But after that, I'm done. I am done. What? Y'all trying too hard. Hey, team, y'all got this. Because ain't no way. What? Talking about they stayed up for that. Look at LaShawna. Look at her. She's ready to go to sleep already. She already sleep. She lost.
Ate too late, have insomnia, or some guy in his 30s is forcing you to stay awake for money. It's just not a pleasant experience. I guess, to be fair, the campers could go to sleep at any time they wanted to, that is, if they wanted to forfeit the challenge. But for only the second challenge in the show to be a form of physical torture says a lot about Chris's character. And this is when he still had some semblance of a moral compass, mind you. Okay, he had something that was...
Justin had the smartest idea, bro. I'm doing that same. I don't care if I get caught. What? I'm laying down just like this, with the paint on my eyes, just like this, just like that, bro, with the paint on my eyes. As soon as I wake up, what? I'm wiping that off immediately. I'm running to the river. I'm washing it off immediately, and I'm staying up. And then it's repeat when I get tired again. It's just we repeating, and that's how you can win the challenge.
Almost unmistakable for one. The vomit comment. The gross out episodes of Total Drama have always been among the more divisive of the bunch. When action has the contestants compete in space-themed challenges, one includes a ride on the vomit comet, where the idea is to ride it for as long as possible before. I'll let you guess what the cutoff point is.
What is that smell?
This is just unspeakably disgusting. It would be if that were all the details the challenge had, but then there's the little detail that Chris, being Chris, does not clean the machine between uses, meaning each camper is forced to wallow in the puke of everyone who came before them, which is just gross. Why did they do this twice? You know that weird trend a lot of video game mascots went through where for a while it seemed like there was always a pinball spinoff? It happened with Mario, Sonic, Kirby. Well, if you thought it was weird, imagine how they felt. The cast of the reboot no longer has to wonder, since after being crushed with gigantic coins, they were forced to carry those coins up a hill to a makeshift human pinball machine where, surprise, surprise, they themselves were the pinballs in question. You know what the weirdest part of this challenge was, though? This isn't the first time he's done it. The Tokyo Challenge and World Tour saw...
That one was a little more manageable, since they're in protective domes. So it was a little more like, okay, that's about
Chris forcing pairs of two into balls to be used as human pinballs, which included placing DJ with a hostile baby panda and placing Cody with his sexually predatory stalker. The escaped psycho killer with a chainsaw and a hook. Okay, this one is less physically torturous and more psychological. After leaving a trail of creepy clues, Chris and Chef leave the island with a warning for the campers to beware of an escaped psycho killer with a chainsaw and a hook. At this point, Chris still has some of his sanity intact, so thankfully, there isn't an actual escaped psycho killer, but he's still fully convinced the remaining campers that...
Dang. Some people on this season just got completely... They just got... I understand it. DJ, it makes sense why you got eliminated. But Lindsay, LaShawna, hey, come on, bro. Multiple times, Lindsay and LaShawna got done dirty. You really think LaShawna is falling for Alejandro? If LaShawna is falling for Alejandro, it's over, bro. It is over. We already experienced that once with Justin when he first came in here. Well, I don't even know. I think she could, because Alejandro be using his words. He be putting it on. He uses his words. With Justin, him was just straight looks. Justin called Eva was just straight looks. So I think
there was one,
okay.
And that if they got caught, they would
All
die.
right.
It's a great concept for a Halloween special,
but season
honestly,
one,
and it's
100%.
made even better by the fact that the whole cast ends up facing off against the real escaped psycho killer with a chainsaw and a hook by sheer coincidence.
They said
But
the whole
I suppose they
cast.
should
It
all be
was just
grateful
one.
Chris didn't wait until later seasons for this challenge, because something tells me it wouldn't have been a coincidence in that case.
This could be really, really good for ratings, but really, really bad for lawsuits.
Speaking of fear, it's hard to get more psychologically horrific than forcing the campers to face their deepest, darkest fears, which Chris recorded without their knowledge, then forced against them. On one hand, seeing Tyler terrified of chickens and Duncan slowly working up the courage to hug a Celine Dion standee is pretty funny. On the other hand, well, imagine if your greatest fear was something others would find stupid, then to not only have that broadcast on TV for the whole world to potentially see, but for yourself to either be branded as a total coward who was scared of jumping into a pool of jello, or for being the one who snuggled up to a cardboard cutout of a famous singer.
They really got no. They just really wanted Tyler to go that episode, bro. Cause did he not, bro? He been around touched chicken so many times. He should have got the point. Harold should have got the point. Harold was ready to box until he slipped. Harold should have got the point. Who else? I don't know if Jeff got the point, but Jeff should have got the 100%. What? You following me around? Raining hail, artificial hail on me. Like it ain't hurt. Like it hurts, bro. It hurts. Like how he not, like, you feel me? Like, I feel like they ain't get done justice.
And come on, was
Tyler
that
should never been
really
eliminated.
necessary? Tyler didn't
shoulda
deserve that.
Right? Tyler did his challenge.
Chef, no offense, but without a doubt, the hardest episode of the original season to sit through is Brunch of Disgustingness, in which the challenge is exactly what the title makes it sound like. A buffet of various revolting meals that campers are forced to try and stomach. Everything from pizza topped with garbage to blended up cockroaches to literal bull testicles.
All right, meatballs. Bring it on!
This is just one of many disgusting food-related challenges in the series, and it's only made worse by the campers' constant, albeit understandable, vomiting as a result of the disgusting food they're forced to choke down. Wheel of Vomit. From one nasty food challenge to another, this episode is rightly titled The Wheel of Vomit, in which the new cast is forced to try the most revolting stuff Chris's twisted mind could think up. And what's that? You say you couldn't possibly think of something you'd want to eat less than bull balls? Okay, how about a 50-foot long sentient tapeworm? Like an actual tapeworm.
That's disgusting. That's disgusting. You want me to eat a tapeworm? Get out of here, bro.
Aside from being a tapeworm, he admits via a confessional that he hasn't showered in days. No amount of money is worth ruining your body to such an extent, and this goes down as what, at least physically, is the hardest scene in the entire series to stomach. For me, at least. Flowers, bubbles, and cotton candy.
Like, this, they was really sorry, bro. I don't care. Like, why is throw up rainbow? Make the throw up, man. Stop being... We already got Ripper Fur in every other episode. So you might as well, like, you feel me?
Andy. Once Revenge of the Island has reached its final four, Chris promises them a challenge that will serve as a welcome back from the torture they've all been enduring. Unfortunately, he backs out of this right after Scott's trap accidentally flings him into the outhouse, and decides to treat the contestants to a gross food challenge. Okay, ignoring my complete unhidden hatred of these, it's made pretty unpleasant by the fact that the campers have to find their own ingredients around the island, make their own dishes, and ultimately eat them when DJ understandably bails on his position as judge. Now, all of that sounds sucky, but does it really constitute torture? Well, compared to everything else we've seen today, not really, but in the end, it's Scott who gets sent home, and after already being put in a wheelchair, Chris decides to put Fang in the catapult with him during his elimination, which ultimately results in Scott being placed into an iron lung with a near lifeless expression on his face in the finale. And look, I get that Scott is an unapologetic bully for 99% of his screen time, but I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy, Ezekiel.
No, that brother changed in All Stars. He was like, karma got me real good in Revenge of the Island.
Ezekiel. Ever since Ezekiel was embarrassingly the first to get voted off in Island, it's all been downhill for this unfortunate homebody. When he returns in World Tour, he's booted off before the game even begins, and while he manages to stay as a stowaway, it only manages to turn him into a feral golem-esque creature. Once Ezekiel completely loses his grip on reality, Chris is naturally horrified at the fact he didn't drive one of his campers insane for challenges sooner. From forcing the others to hunt him down with tranquilizer guns like an animal, to watching as he jumped into a volcano with the $1 million at the end of the season.
And completely survived. This is a crazy scene, but he completely survived it.
Ezekiel constantly suffers loss after loss, and unlike Scott, who at least recovered, we never see Ezekiel recover any semblance of his older self.
He's not a wild animal. He just has a few quirks.
It's made even worse by the fact that Zeke suffers the worst fate out of anyone in the show while not even being a villain. Heck, he's not even really an antagonist. Truly, this is a fate that's about as close to torture as you can get. Actual torture. Naturally then, our top spot goes to the points where this series delved into actual torture for its challenges. The majority of what we've talked about today was just stuff that could be argued to be torture. Eating the most vile, disgusting food imaginable, going through painful and perilous challenges, all those classic total drama trademarks. But in season 1 specifically, a few challenges go one step further. Most notably the episode in which the challenge is quite literally to survive 10 seconds of various forms of torture, including a scalding hot marshmallow face waxing, standing in a barrel full to the brim of blood-sucking leeches, and challenging a Russian bear to a log running contest, which I'm not sure how that constitutes torture, but there's still no reason a sane person would ever ask a teenager to do that. If that's not extreme enough for you, look no further.
It's crazy because she won. She won.
Than the penultimate challenge with the final 3, in which Heather, Duncan, and Owen all have to spin a wheel full of the most vile challenges the eliminated campers could come up with. Being shaven bald on national TV, eating jelly out of Owen's belly button, licking Owen's armpit, being fired into a pile of pig crap, swimming in an entire swimming pool full of leeches, and yeah, you get the idea. Yikes, all of this for $100,000, which, while is a lot of money, wouldn't even begin to scratch the surface when it comes to therapy, physical and...
So, at the end of the day, right, I am not a challenge threat for total drama. Some challenge, if it's an extremely physical challenge, I'm a challenge threat. Anything where we have to swim or do any crazy stuff, I lost. Completely lost, bro. But yeah, bro. I'll see y'all in the next video. Like, comment, subscribe, do all that good thing. And I'll see you.